All right, I'm going to ask.
Okay, Rosalie, I want to wish you a good Shabbos and a Purim Sameach. I'm done.
I'm going to ask everyone to mute, please. I'll try not to remove anyone. It's hard to get out of my second grade mode. In the mid 90s, when we lived in South Africa, a friend and I decided to spend a few weeks at Shiur in Harnov. That's the seminary of Rebbetzin Holly Pavlov. I never had an opportunity to go to seminary, and I always wanted to do that. And so my friend Sonia Kent, native of England, who lived in South Africa at the time I was there, subsequently she's made Aliyah. I hope that we will follow in the not too distant future. No pressure on my husband. And at any rate, so we went for 3 weeks and we stayed in the dorm. The girls are not there. It was, I'm not sure why there was no one in the dorm, because we were there over, oh my gosh, I've gone blank. We were there. Lag BaOmer. We were there over Lag BaOmer. So I guess the regular seminary year had ended by then. Any rate, and it was great. And one of the teachers, Rabbi Whedon, taught a halacha class, and it was a great class. He really took what could be a very dry subject and made it very interesting and engaging. Unfortunately, about a month ago, his daughter became very ill. His pregnant daughter became very ill with COVID. She is hospitalized. I don't want to say was. She's unfortunately still in the hospital. They decided to take the baby by C-section. Both of them were in a very precarious situation for a number of weeks. Baruch Hashem, the baby did very well enough that he was able to have his bris, I think it was about a week or a week and a half ago. So that is obviously a good sign. There would be no bris if he was still endangered. 2 weeks ago, they thought she was gone. Tehillim has been said all over the world, including here. I've sent her name out to a number of people in our community. Rachel Naomi Bas Esther Chana. Keep davening. The good news lately from Rebbetzin Pavlov, she's keeping me updated, is that Rachel Naomi is off of something called ECMO, ECMO. I think it's a heart-lung machine. I don't know exactly, but that's what's in my mind. That's what it is. She's still in a respirator, but one of Rebbetzin Pavlov's daughters-in-law went to visit her this week, and she was somewhat responsive. So that is good news. So keeping in mind today our learning and any other mitzvah that you do, and I'll refer to this again probably at the end of my shiur. Rachel Naomi Bas Esther Chana. A refuah shalema for her, Rachel Naomi Bas Esther Chana. And keeping in mind an aliyah for my mother, Razel Bas Simcha. Now, I don't think it's a coincidence that my mother was nifter on Purim and that her name is Razel Bas Simcha. I don't believe in coincidences, and I am certainly sure there is a strong connection. And many people here remember that my mother had a very good sense of humor. It was sometimes different than other people's senses of humor, but she really did. And it was so interesting. When I was sitting Shiva here for my father, unfortunately, I couldn't sit here for my mother. We were in South Africa. But, you know, sometimes when you're sitting Shiva for one person and another relative's personality or discussion comes up about the person's spouse or son or daughter, or whatever. And many people here did comment on how they remember that my mother had a great sense of humor. So I was, on one hand, thinking maybe as a child, I couldn't be as objective as other people. On the other hand, I do remember some very funny things that she would say, sometimes to my children, sometimes to us. So again, I think the connection is very strong between Simcha and Purim. Some of the ideas that I want to share today are related to Parshat Mishpatim, which we read I want to say 2 weeks ago. Yes, is that right? 2 weeks ago. Okay, just give a nod or thumbs up. I don't see the chats open here. I don't know why. I guess you close down one thing and something else opens. But I took these ideas from a website called Chizuk Shaya, Chuzusshaya, and I spent quite a bit of time trying to find the origin or the person who gave the shiur or the person who, and I couldn't find it. So please forgive me that I can't give credit properly, but the references to Parshat Mishpatim are from that shiur. The concept here is deepening our relationship with Hashem by perfection of the mitzvot ben Adam lechavero. So that was the thrust of that reference to Mishpatim, and we will come back to that shortly. We know the mitzvos of Purim include reading the Megillah, hearing the Megillah, the Sudas Purim, Mishlaoach Manot, and Matanat Levyoni. Okay, so we know those are the four main mitzvot. So let's look first at the sending of gifts, Mishlach Manot. And then we'll look to see how that relates to the Parsha of Mishpatim. And finally, we'll see if we can make a connection, or I'll try to make a connection between that particular mitzvah and the Parsha to the matzah that we're in presently. So the main pieces of the mitzvah of Mishlach Manot, we're obligated to send a gift consisting of at least 2 portions to another person. Both men and women are included in this mitzvah. And this is not to criticize anyone's gifts, but the main thing is that everything be edible. Now, my definition of edible might be different than someone else's definition of edible. However, we'll leave it at that. And the concept is that the person should be able to enjoy the contents at their Purim Seudah. And we should send to as many friends as possible. And even better is than sending more gifts is to give to the poor. And in addition to our friends, and even a poor person is obligated. And it's said that if one is unable to do so, he may exchange his own food for that of his friends, both of whom would then fulfill their obligation. So if a poor person gives to another poor person, that fulfills the obligation. Ari, I'm sorry we interrupted you in the middle of your davening. Thank you for joining us. Okay, and then the last piece, for anyone that doesn't know who this is our son Ari Lerner. Okay. The mitzvah of Mishlach Manot may be fulfilled with money, may not be fulfilled with money, clothing, and the like, but only with food or beverages. So that's a very interesting concept. And lastly, we normally will send with a messenger rather than deliver it personally. And other mitzvot, it says it's more of a mitzvah if done personally than if done through a messenger. And this mitzvah is different. And we look at the very title of the mitzvah, Mishlach Manot, the sending of portions, the sending. And that's the term that's used in the Megillah. And that is the proper procedure. However, I will note that if that's not possible or it's very awkward, a person can leave their portion directly. Okay. So we learned that this mitzvah and the giving of gifts to the poor during the days of Purim are prescribed in order to recall the brotherly love. By the way, I'm completely politically incorrect. I'll say words like brotherly and he and she and things like that. So please, if you're uncomfortable with that, you could stop your video yourself. But just a little warning up front. Okay. So the concept is that when there's inner unity among Jews, even the wrongdoers among them can become righteous. I have to just throw out one thing, only because I'm afraid I'm going to forget. So I'm interrupting myself. It occurred to me this morning that I would say probably outside of Pesach, probably most Jews in the world celebrate Purim in one form or another. But even for those who are completely removed, it occurred to me this morning that even those Jews this year, probably for the first time in the history of Purim, are wearing masks. Okay, so that just hit me this morning. I thought, maybe that's Hashem's sense of humor. I don't know. There's so much I don't know, but it just occurred to me this morning that is the situation this Purim. Okay, let's look inside of Parshas Mishpatim. What's striking about this parsha is that it appears to interrupt the flow of the narrative of Bnei Yisrael's development as a nation. Prior to Mishpatim, starting with Parsha Shemot, we read about Bnei Yisrael's extraordinary journey from downtrodden slaves to uplifted nation, receiving the Torah from Hashem at Har Sinai. That's in Yitro. The Parshiot after Mishpatim delve into the intricacies of the Mishkan and the priestly garments. And then, of course, there's the incident of the Egel, the golden calf. So what are we to make of Parshat Mishpatim, a seemingly dry recitation of numerous civil laws that appears out of place in this narrative? Or is it really out of place? So let's take a look. Explaining the significance of Parshat Mishpatim, Rav Simcha Bunim, and I can't pronounce the city that he's from, but he was a Hasidic Rebbe in Poland in the 18th and 19th century. He focuses on the word lifneihem in the first pasuk of the parsha, ve'ela hamishpatem asher tasim lifneihem, and these are the laws that you shall set before them. Rav Simcha observes that the mitzvot of Parshat Mishpatim fall primarily under the category of Ben Adam Lechavero, the commandments governing relationship between man and man. Before Mishpatim, we studied the development of the relationship between man and Hashem via a series of open miracles, culminating in the Har Sinai experience. Now the Torah shifts gears and focuses on mitzvot Ben Adam Lechavero. The message conveyed by the word lifneihem, says Rav Simcha, is that the mitzvot Ben Adam Lechavero take priority, consistent with the dictum in Pirkei Avos of Der Eretz Kadma LaTorah. Rav Simcha states that Lifneihem teaches us that first mastering the mitzvot Ben Adam Lechavero should take priority over mastering Ben Adam Lamakom, between Hashem and God. Rabbi Jonathan Re'iti at a Gateway seminar once noted concerning the Aseret Adibrot that the tradition of Aseret Adibrot, it tells us that the spaces on both the luchot, the tablets, were filled completely with writing. There were no blank spaces. However, he says there is a problem. The right side, consisting of the first 5 Aseret Adibrot, the mitzvot Ben Adam Lamakom, has 146 words. The left side, consisting of the last 5 Aseret Adibrot, the mitzvah Ben Adam Lechavero, has only 26 words. Since both sides of the luchos were of the same size, how did both the 146 word side and the 26 word side fill up the space? It seems that the left side with the 26 words should have been huge empty spaces. Rabbi Re'iti answered, as rabbis often do, they ask a question and they give the answer, that the font size of the words on the left side was simply bigger than the size of the words on the right. The message is that our moral and ethical responsibilities are big and perhaps more important from the standpoint of our spiritual development than our responsibilities towards Hashem. One should never underestimate the importance of Ben Adam Lechavero. And this is the same message of Parshat Mishpatim, as per Rav Simcha Bunim. We can glean yet another message from the location of Parshat Mishpatim in the Exodus narrative in terms of how to deepen our relationship with Hashem. The answer is that closeness to Hashem does not necessarily develop from open miracles. The impact of these miracles often fade over time which might explain how quickly and easily Bnei Yisrael sinned at Har Sinai, despite previously witnessing such extraordinary miracles, or even from perfection of mitzvot ben Adam l'makam. Rather, we deepen our relationship with Hashem by emulating his quality of chesed through commitment to mitzvot ben Adam l'chavero. As the Gemara states, just as Hashem is merciful, so too should we be merciful. Just as Hashem is compassionate, so too should we be compassionate. In other words, it is through mitzvot ben Adam l'chavero of the kind identified in Parshat Mishpatim, the perfection of our interaction with other human beings, that we deepen our relationship with Hashem. This idea is further borne out by the holiday of Purim. As the Gemara tells us, the acceptance of the Torah at Har Sinai was incomplete because of the element of compulsion. Har Sinai was held above our heads. Only many years later, in connection with the miracle of Purim, did Bnei Israel fully accept the Torah, voluntarily, without any compulsion, an acceptance signified by the phrase kimu v'kiblu, roughly translated as to stand up and to accept. And we read that in the Megillah. Importantly, this renewed acceptance occurred even though the miracle of Purim was not an open one. We know that Hashem's name does not appear anywhere in Megillat Esther. Rather, it was a hidden miracle that transpired through completely natural events. So now we come back to those mitzvot that are the hallmark of Purim as being the mitzvot ben Adam l'chavero, in particular generosity, giving gifts to the poor, giving gifts to friends. The message is the same as that of the Parshat Mishpatim. That is, the path to a deeper relationship with Hashem is of the kind signified by kimu v'kiblu. It's not through open miracles or even through the perfection of those mitzvot, ben Adam l'makam, between man and God, but rather, Parshat Mishpatim teaches us it's a perfection of the mitzvot ben Adam l'chavero, between man and man, that deepens our relationship with Hashem. What Hashem truly wants from us is to be mentioned. By being a mensch, we emulate Hashem, whose essence is chesed, and therefore we deepen our identification with Hashem. As a proof text, we're going to look at Sefer Yeshayahu. And this is Hashem's statement. To what purpose is the multitude of your sacrifices to me? I'm full of the burnt offerings of rams and the fat of fed beasts, and I delight not in the blood of the bullocks or of the lamb or the he-goats. Your new moons and your appointed season, my soul hateth. They're a burden to me. I'm weary to bear them. And when you spread forth your hands, I will hide my eyes from you. When you make many prayers, I will not hear. Your hands are full of blood. Wash you, make you clean. Put away the evil of your doings from before mine eyes. Cease to do evil. Learn to do well. Speak justice. Relieve the oppressed. Judge the fatherless. And plead for the widow. In sum, it emerges that Parshat Mishpatim is not out of place, but very appropriately positioned as a key step in the process that takes Bnei Yisrael from attachment to Hashem via miracles to the much more enduring attachment to Hashem by imitating his ways. No one, and certainly I, should not try to explain why this Makkah, of Corona, has come upon us. However, I'd like to share perhaps a simple but meaningful idea that I have pondered. That is that perhaps the mandate of wearing masks, not being able to communicate clearly, and having to social distance is meant to remind us of exactly what our obligations are, ben Adam l'chavero. I'm wondering whether or not this forced distancing is to awaken within us a greater appreciation of and for each other, to remind us to never take for granted love, kinship, family, friends, fellow workers, colleagues. Just the thought. May my mother, Rezel Bas Simcha's neshama, have an aliyah from each and every mitzvah that we all do today, tomorrow, and going forward. In particular, those mitzvot ben Adam lechavero. If we can succeed in perfecting our mitzvot ben Adam lechavero, then we may become worthy of further revelation of God's presence in this world. Receive his mercy and merit to welcome Mashiach ben Hera v'Yameinu. Thank you for joining with me today. Chag Purim Sameach, Shabbat Shalom, Bracha and Hatzlacha to all of you. And I ended on time.
Ready for more.
Beautiful.
Oh my God.